This week is International Women's Day inspired. My first question, though, is did you do something special for International Women's Day? Is that a no?
Every day is International Women's Day for me.
Welcome to The Road to Soul Joy Wellness, where a coach and a therapist explore the journey to living your best life on purpose. Here are Joy Williams and Nadine Huesner, your host.
Hey, Nadine.
Hey, Joy, new day, new start.
Yes, it's a great day. And I'm excited that we are having another conversation. So this week is International Women's Day inspired. So where we celebrate the strength, the resilience, and wisdom of women living their best life.
Time and space as we should to those experiences, those journeys that women have. So I am excited to talk about the listeners will find something that either resonates with them or inspires them.
Yes, I hope so too. Now, my first question though is, did you do something special for International Women's Day? Is that a no?
Every day is International Women's Day for me.
Mhm.
So when you say special, Joy, let's ask the question. What do you mean special, right?
I don't know,
Did
it could have
I?
been anything just to acknowledge it. You could have been posting on social, or you could have claimed something you did. So I went out with a friend for lunch, and I just claimed it as my International Women's Day thing. It wasn't really that I was like, let me celebrate International Women's Day, but I had
Mm-hmm,
been more intentional about networking and connecting with friends.
mm-hmm.
So she's a friend from business school. So I hadn't spent a lot of time with her. So after I did it, I was like, oh, it's International Women's Day. This is my
Okay.
International Women's Day celebration.
Wow. You know, I I live my life sometimes very unintentionally, and everything that I do is International Women's Day, right? I did my mom stuff, right? I did my wife's stuff, and I did Nadine stuff. So yeah, I did International Women's Day, and I spoke to some girlfriends, right? And I celebrated women. I celebrate women every day, and
That is
it's
great.
and also, just so you know, right, March is also International Social Workers Month, right? Social Workers Month. So it's something where both kind of coexist in my life. So yeah.
So I didn't know that. So that's good to know. International
hmm
Social Workers Month.
Yeah, Social Workers Month, Women's Month, it's the same. I don't know if
Mhm.
it's
Yeah.
international because social workers are not technically international. So Social Workers Month, but it's yeah. And I did a lot of that too. So this whole
Okay.
month, I did it, I'm doing it, and I will do it for this entire
Mhm.
month.
Yes, and just like with Black History Month, we celebrate all the time. So celebrate on the layers of things.
Every day I celebrate Black history and the being of Black.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and during this month, one of the things I've been doing is when there's something that happens, I
Mhm.
will, and someone else posts it, I will celebrate it and say, this is great that it's happening, especially during Women's History Month. So, yeah.
Mhm.
But
Well,
oh, go ahead. You were about to say something.
well, as I'm sure our listeners may already realize or recognize, my presence on social media is non-existent. I'm working on it, Joy. I am working on it. So I do see those posts that can come out, and I do get some tags and understand that there seems to be I'm social media challenged. So
Hmm.
um, and I understand that now, Joy, which means that it's not that I can't do it, that I am unconsciously or consciously choosing not to. So I confess my sins.
That's interesting. So it would be, I don't know what's the word I'm looking for me not to mention that I'm doing a social media challenge for people just like you, people who don't use social media and know they need to for business reasons, not just to be wasting your time scrolling. Although that can be a good way of distracting yourself from other things. Excuse me. So sometimes that's good, but if you were trying to be using social media purposefully, So you'll have to find, and we'll put a link somewhere for my social media challenge, which will be a 5-day challenge to get you up to speed on what to post, where to post, and how to reach your audience. So if you are trying to improve your authority and your presence and to gain more clients in particular, just to be like a pro in your space. So I'll put that somewhere. But yeah.
I do need a lot of help. I'll take the help. So
Yeah.
thank you.
And then that leads to the other conversation, because in this, using it's all about embracing your authenticity. It's not about being someone else. You don't have to be, if you're a fitness pro, you don't have to be the person in a bra top and bike shorts. You can be who you are and share that information. And if you're a therapist like you can express yourself. And you don't always have to be on camera, although being on camera is good for you. And you don't always have to speak on camera, but it'll be helpful. So yeah. So the International Women's Day is a time for us to really, really do a good job of embracing our authenticity and to share that with other people. So I think that is one of the important things about this time. And when we lift up other women and who they are and how they are, that they're great just as they are. So I think
Mhm.
that's important during this time, well, all the times, but especially now.
I truly celebrate authenticity all the time. I know no other way to be, because being anything else is just too much work. So, uh,
Yeah, that is a good perspective. It is too much work, and especially when you are more focused on just being. Because I think one of the things that challenges for people is they're always trying to put on a best picture for someone else as
mhm,
opposed to saying, "This is who I am." You know, and that doesn't mean that we don't develop and change and grow, but I
mhm.
think some people are really trying to live out for what other people think as opposed to themselves.
And that's a whole therapy conversation about, being your true self. And I think women struggle with that too, about just being their authentic self, um, and feeling that people will accept them, because ultimately we all strive to be loved. We do. Um, so you have to love yourself so that others can see how wonderful you are, and they can love you too. It starts with you.
And that loving yourself is the foundation of the self-care, right? So it's not just the
Absolutely.
mani-pedi, as we've said before.
No,
That
no, it's about, who I am is, is good enough and is enough. So I hate using that. Is good enough. That's showing there's some hierarchy. Who I am is enough.
Mhm.
So
And often I think we don't think about ourselves and our accomplishments, and not that they have to be big and grand, like being, the president of the United States or anything, but we don't think about it, so we undervalue ourselves. So when we recognize that we're good, we are enough, all of those things, and then sort of look at it from a mindful living kind of place where it is you're focused on the moment. I mean, it's hard because we get to do so many things in routine space where we
mhm.
should be more em- embracing the moment. So I think sometimes it's just hard for us to do that because we're working at such a fast pace, trying to get so many things done, knocking it off the to-do list,
Yeah.
that we're not as mindful as we could be.
hmm Absolutely. I agree with you 100%.
My word of the day is from 1 Corinthians 12:4-7. There are different kinds of gifts, but the same Spirit distributes them. There are different kinds of service, but the same Lord. There are different kinds of working, but in all of them and in everyone, it is the same God at work. So I think, especially
Mm.
when we talk about International Women's Day and authenticity and embracing ourselves, it is that we can embrace ourselves as women, we can be different than men, and we can be different than each other. So we can still
Mhm.
be loved by God and still love one another and still love God and still do all those things and
Mhm.
not really measure ourselves against other people, just measure ourselves against ourselves.
And that's where we get kind of stuck. That we're measuring ourselves with other people, which then maybe that's why I don't do social media, because but I do realize it's only a clip and people, it's only like literally a second, or what is it, 30 seconds of someone's life.
Yeah. So I think you have to look at social media differently. Like it is their highlight pages, right?
Hmm.
And you have to actively not compare yourself or use it as inspiration. So sometimes
Hmm.
if someone's doing something that I think I might want to do and they're successful at it, I know that God has blessed them, therefore God will bless me too. That he is no
Hmm.
respecter of person, that I can do the steps to make that happen. They might be
Hmm.
different steps than that person, and it might be a different thing, but that I can get to where I want to be. I think that's
Yeah.
the part. It that if you think of it that way, because people when they look in comparison, and then sometimes you can see that people are going through something, or because they're transparent about it, or you can see either someone's gained a lot of weight or lost a lot of weight. You don't know how any of those things happen. So, and it sort of reminds me there's a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes. So, one of the
Hmm.
things about being authentic, when people share those things, that they're on their
Hmm.
own journey and you're on your own.
Joy, I have a beautiful quote of the day that I think is appropriate for our talk today. It states, "No one can make you feel inferior without your consent." Eleanor Roosevelt. She's an American diplomat, humanitarian, first lady to the 32nd president. Truly words that I believe in and I support, I promote when I work with people, about people can only treat you the way that you allow them to. So I didn't know Eleanor was already on that vibe. I love how she stated it. It's beautiful. You have to consent. So when someone treats you somewhere that you don't want to be treated, it's because you somehow passively or unconsciously consented to it. I'm not blaming the victim. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying you want to be treated differently, then you don't consent to bad treatment. And we can talk about that later on how you don't consent. What does non consent look like?
Which sometimes you have to remove yourself from that
That's
situation.
non consent. That's non consent. That is your nonverbal no thank you.
Yeah, because that treatment is all about them. It's not about you.
Yeah, remove yourself. You don't
Yeah,
have to negotiate your value with people. You don't.
I
My
like
plug.
that. That's a good one.
You had mentioned something about cheering another person on, right? And being able to be that person that cheers someone on when they're doing great, and not to make it a comparative experience. So, why do they have those opportunities? And I don't know, I think women, both sexes, both genders have their competitions, right? Women, men have to be the strong and powerful and in control, dominant people, and women have to, be perfect in appearances, right? And I think we were constantly being compared. I was not a person who was compared, but I I believe that the female experience has been that we've been set in this competition with each other. When you see the movie Mean Girls, how we tend to break each other down in the movie, how the how women break each other down, but really don't support each other. And there's this competition that there's no kindness in it. And I feel, in my experience, women are pretty kind people, very nurturing, very supportive. But I think in the internal world of I have to be better than the next person, um, I think that that brings those feelings of insecurities where we're always comparing ourselves to someone else when we really should be in the place, or you will feel better about the experience when you're cheering the person on instead of comparing. So if you're in a place where you feel like you're like, ah, I'm so upset that, Joy is doing such awesome things, in that space only holds you down, only keeps you in this very not good space. If you simply just like, oh my God, Joy, this is wonderful. Like, I'm so excited for you. In fact, you know, back in the days when I joined Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, right? When I became a member, there was a poem about the test of a woman. And one of the verses says, it takes a true woman is a woman who can stand and share when another woman shines. And those have been words that I've lived by. Um, that's truly what a woman does, right? She will cheer on another woman when she's shining.
Yeah, I think for some people who have difficulty with that, one, it means if you're having that challenge with someone else that they're feeling competitive, it's probably not your tribe, right? So your tribe has to be supportive of you. And then people have their own insecurities. And then other people like to control things. They want to be in charge of things, whether they have authority or not. So they just want to control and manipulate things, which some of that, again, I think lends to their own insecurity and being puffed up about feeling, as the Bible says, don't feel more. What's the quote exactly? But don't feel better about yourself than you ought. So instead of, because I think that happens when people forget about what the larger goal is, and then they get focused on themselves and how they need to control and need to do it their way and need some validation from other people. So yeah, like you said, we all do want to be loved. And some of us just want to be like men or women, want to be in control of everything. It needs to be exactly their way. So I think that is an interesting thing. And when you're in those situations and you can't get yourself out of them right away, then you on the other side of being in those situations have to develop some resiliency to hold you through, and then figure out how to navigate so that you can be in a situation where you have your tribe of support, because the tribe itself can hold you back, right? Because they want to do the same thing, but your support. So, and that's another thing. When I joined Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, I felt the people who joined with me, and I felt it ever since, have always supported me and wanted more for me. So even if they didn't like exactly what I was doing or the way I was doing it, it was always um, trying to move me forward. Not the people who want to hold you back, and they're not thinking that they're trying to hold you back, but their thing is the sameness. They want it to be the same. So I think I'm with a group of individuals in my circle who are more adventurous in some sense, and generally more supportive of people taking risks. So I think, God made that tribe, but uh, I think we have to seek it out if we don't have that.
I love what you said about finding the right tribe. And I think that is what's key. And, the question is, well, how do I know I'm in the right tribe? What does that feel like? What does that look like? And the tribe that I have, which includes you, Joy, has always cheered me on. There's some members who like to point out what I'm doing wrong, even when I don't ask, which is interesting. They know who they are, right?
Mhm.
Um, you know, and you need to have that balance in your tribe. Those people who will knock on the door and come in and tell you about yourself. So I welcome it. Makes me a better person, but it is finding the right tribe. And that tribe and everyone in my tribe cheers each other on authentically. We cheer each other on. We're there for each other. For the good times, I cheer everybody on because when you make it, I want to be sitting there in the limo with you, right? So that's really my intention. But not always for the successes, but for the challenges, for the low points in life, that they're there too. So your tribe doesn't have to, and I think sometimes we may get caught up in the numbers game. Oh, I don't have a lot of friends. Do you have one? Because I'm all about quality. It's not about quantity. And helping us to know that your tribe may just be one or two people, and that's okay. That's wonderful.
Yeah, I think you definitely have to have deep connection. So you can be superficially friends with lots of people,
Mhm.
but do you have deep connections with people? Do you have people who are there in the good and the bad times, right? And then
Mhm.
if you haven't journeyed with someone through some time, you won't know. So if you haven't had a bad time, or they haven't had, and then there's some people who are really great at responding differently. So I have
Mhm.
one of my friends who is also a member of our sorority. She
Mhm.
is a really great and really responsive to people. She really is very thoughtful. It comes really naturally to her, which in turn reminds me to be more thoughtful. Could it be? Hmm. Could- So I think, and that's the other thing. Like sometimes you don't have to grow around people because people are just being critical. But if you're self-aware and you see other good traits, you're like, hey, I should do some of that. That's
Yeah.
helpful.
Mhm.
So, and it doesn't always have to be a formal class. Someone doesn't have to say, you need to do whatever. You need to, but so I think that's helpful. And then
Yeah.
in building that community and nurturing it. And then you have
Mhm.
to remember to nurture it. Even if there's some people who are, in the tribe that you don't necessarily speak to
Mhm.
regularly, but when you connect, and then sometimes you have to make some time, which is what I was doing for my International Women's Day, was saying, okay, I need to be intentional about connecting with people and not really wanting anything from them. I have a whole lot of wants over here.
Mhm.
They might be able to help, but they might not, but just connecting with them. So it was a great conversation having with the person I hadn't spoken to at any length in years, and catching up, and connecting, and say, okay, we're gonna connect again. So that's what I'm being intentional about, and for this year as a part of deepening some of the relationships, and increasing my tribe, because there's that tribe of people who are your friends, and then there's that tribe of, well, not a tribe, the network of people you're trying to work with. So,
Mhm.
you know, looking for more clients and all that stuff can't be the only thing to do. You have to have some deeper relationship.
You mentioned some of the things, and like I said, International Women's Month, year. It's a year. It's a whole thing. Because I did, interestingly enough, connect with someone who I haven't spoken to since, I mean, quick text. And we were like, hey, let's do lunch. Let's do lunch on this day. And,
Mm,
and that's the thing for me. I always tell people, which should not be ever a reason, charge it to my head, not to my heart. And if I say something, if I don't put it on the calendar, it will come, and it's just all, it's not gonna happen. And I say, don't let me get away without us putting a date on this. It won't happen. So I think as we begin to connect with those people, or build those relationships, establish those deeper connections, it's about putting it on the calendar, committing to it. That's what commitment looks like. It's on the calendar. We can talk about it high level, and we know that our hearts want to do it, but the mind is in charge. The mind tells us where we got to be, what we got to say.
mhm.
So you
Yeah,
got to connect it to the mind.
yeah, that's exactly how this lunch happened. It was like, okay, let's get it on the calendar, because
Hmm.
and the conversation was, I keep saying that I'm going to do this, so let's make a date. Let's make the date right now. Um,
Hmm.
let's
Hmm.
pull out the calendars right now. Does that work?
Yeah.
Okay. Who's figuring out where we're meeting? Let's do that right now. Yeah.
Yeah. This talk, Joy, isn't just benefiting, I hope, our listeners, but my brain is like firing off on all of the things that I have done and I am doing literally this month to connect with people who are women. They happen to be women, but that I do have these deep relationships with. So,
Mhm.
and in fact, my sister-in-law is getting married, so I have a bridal shower to go to
Ooh,
today, and it's going to be a bunch of women. So I'm looking forward to it.
that's exciting. That's exciting.
Super
Yeah.
excited.
I think like one of the things I said before, sometimes we don't remember the things that we've done, or we don't count
Hmm.
toward that, because sometimes the negativity, because we live in a really negative society, is the thing that rings loudest. So we have to bring the positive things to our focus, including reminding ourselves of what our purpose is and why we're doing those things. So as we are moving forward, saying, are we aligned with our purpose? Is that statement, or if you have an elevator speech on your statement, what you're doing, are you living that? And are you deliberate in doing that? Because we are almost at the end of the first quarter of the year. Blink, 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 right? So we'll be at December before you know it. So can we evaluate an ongoing process and make adjustments? Are we making the goals that we want? If we set SMART goals or not, are they specific, measurable, actionable? I don't know.
Attainable and
And time.
timely.
Yeah, right. So instead of just making it a big dream, I'm all for dreams. I'm all for dreams. Can we tie some action to it, and is it on our purpose? Because they can get busy and you can just get up, do stuff, go to sleep, and not make any progress in that area.
Absolutely. And I know, Joy, you have been really doing some great work connecting with women who are doing great things. And I celebrate you for that. I think that's great and wonderful because you have brought them into my realm and into my awareness. So kudos to you, Joy. You keep doing what you do. You do it in an awesome way. So just want to give you kudos for International Women's Month and Year.
Thank you. Yes, International Women's Month and Year. We'll be celebrating.
Yeah.
We'll continue to celebrate, and we'll bring more women into this space too. So I think that's great. And then this whole road to Soul Joy Wellness will be living on our purpose.
On time.
Yes. So this was a great conversation. Audience, we hope you liked it too. Give us some comments, what you think. And if you have done some things for International Women's Day, or what you're going to do, and live your best life on purpose.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of Road to Soul Joy Wellness. We hope you enjoyed the show. Please leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. We love your feedback and a chance to answer your questions, and we may even share your ideas on the show. Until the next time, enjoy your time on the road to Soul Joy Wellness.